Parents are the most reliable and trustworthy relations a person can have in the world. But children often see their parents in a completely untrue light. Before we begin, I strongly urge you to click the bell icon and subscribe to our channel. After that, we can get started. My name is Alexander and I'm 29 years old. My ex-wife is Blake and she is 27. Blake and I first connected at a study fair. My niece and I went to this event together and it was a study expo. She was giving a presentation to the students about the entire scholarship program. She served as a representative for the university in one capacity or another. But gaining admission and making a scholarship application were things that were of interest to my niece. When I first saw her at the expo, I was completely taken back and my body went into shock simply because I have never actually encountered a truly beautiful human being in my life. I was very honest with my niece. And as a result, I told her that maybe she would be your aunt, which is something that I had been looking for. Many years while laughing, she laughed as well and said that we were going to go to her and meet her. However, I declined because I believed doing so would be unethical. After making her decision, it was time for my niece to visit the admission office for the university she had chosen so she could learn more about the requirements for the enrollment. When we arrived there, to our good fortune, there was the same girl there. It was Blake all alone. I was taken aback by how quickly it happened. And after obtaining permission, we went inside the office. She was such a lovely and kind woman. My niece was able to obtain all of the information from her. And while they were talking, my niece was also able to obtain her personal phone number. However, she did not tell me about this until after the meeting. Following that, she encouraged me to get in touch with her. It was about that time that I decided to give her a call. I called her and informed her that we had attended the expo 2 days ago. And to my pleasant surprise, she remembered everything. In addition, she informed me of my name after I told her about my niece. I was taken aback. So I inquired as to show how she was familiar with my name. She stated that my niece had mentioned you to her. You provide a lot of support for her. I answered in an affirmative and told her that she is very important to me and that she is very similar to my own daughter. However, I am still single. I thought it was a nice initiative and she laughed. She thought it was funny. After that, we started having conversations there together. Me and my niece traveled to their university to complete the admission process, during which time we met her in the admission office. In point of fact, she had graduated from the same university, had offered her both internship and a job after she completed it. She was a very active woman. However, when we met her, she acted as though she was available to us whenever we wanted. During our conversation, I let her know that I work as a psychologist at New York Central Hospital because of a series of unfortunate events involving her sister. She became more interested in me and requested an appointment. I told her not to worry about anything and handed her my business card before assuring her that I would handle the situation. She came with her sister. And from the time she arrived until the end of the 5th session, we became good friends. From that point on, we began getting together for fun and that's how we got attached. My mother once observed the two of us traveling together in a car. And when I finally made it back to my house, she inquired about the girl and I responded that she and I shared nothing more than a platonic friendship. In my case, it's possible that I wanted to know her better by spending more time with her. But there was this one time when we were hanging out on the beach and going for a walk in the evening, when I got the impression that she was interested in me as well, because we perceived that there was a marriage standing in our path and we decided to discuss marriage. Then after taking a deep breath, she fixed her gaze on me in an odd manner while telling me that she too was waiting for someone who could give her hope. After making the statement, she looked at me intently for about 10 seconds. I decided that it would be an appropriate time to tell her about how I've been feeling. I decided to take a chance and kiss her while she was staring at me. And after that, I asked her if she would be my better half after being kissed. She became red in the face and appeared timid. She did not answer my question and instead began walking away. So I assumed that she did not appreciate my kissing act. I told her I am sorry that I had gotten angry. She was continuously walking, but I stopped her and apologized profusely for what I had done to her. Her response was that you have every right to feel sorry. After that, I began to worry that I had her at her in some way. Then all of a sudden she said, while smiling, that you require additional practice. And then she said, "Don't worry, I'll teach you." When she made that statement, I immediately went from being upset to being excited. After that, at the beginning of our love story, when I first asked her about marriage, she told me that she had a sister who needed her every time. She was very attached to her. If I would get married, it became a problem for her parents to take care of her sister, and that she would not think about marriage until she reached university, and also her treatment came to end. However, she did say that she will be willing to go in a relationship before getting married. I reassured her that everything was fine and told her to take as much time as she needed. But I was relieved that I still had her in my possession. We had the makings of a healthy relationship. Throughout the intensity of the time, there came a point when I began to question whether or not I had made the right decision in trusting her. After completing 1 year, I was required to attend a conference for the physiological community that was held in Berlin. That was a very significant point for me. I've been for 2 weeks in Berlin. Upon my return, I discover the cheapest pending time for the male companion. It's possible for me to say that particular guy had bad intentions towards her. When I questioned her about it, she responded that he was merely a friend. Even I was unable to picture the two of them together. But the first time I went to her house, I discovered them both sleeping in the same bed. Because of this, I came to the conclusion and informed her that it was impossible for us to continue our relationship. She apologized to me and told me that I had made a mistake. She pleaded with me 1,000 times to please help her. Even she made an attempt to hurt her in front of me because of her errors. I was able to put a stop to her and forgive her. I had no intention of forgiving her. But the way she behaved me forced me to do so. On the other hand, I warned her that if she committed such a transgression once more, I would never forgive her. In any case, I endeavored to forget everything, but I was unable to do so. However, I made a promise to myself that I would put those memories out of my mind because I was going to marry that girl. Anyhow, 2 years passed during that time. And at some point, I came across an advertisement for a psychologist who was needed by the United States Army. So I tried my luck because I thought it was a good opportunity for me to serve my country. And after a few months, she told me that her sister is now recovered properly and she got scholarship in the university and going to Canada for high studies, which that she was ready to get married. It was uplifting information for me to hear. I told my mother about her. She told me to bring her home to meet both of my sisters and my mother. She came with her parents to meet my family. I was very concerned about them. But to my relief, they were all very taken aback by her and they were overjoyed that I went with such a sweet and lovely young lady for myself. In those days, I received a letter offering me a job in the United States Army as a psychologist, and as a requirement for the position, I had to attend military training. But thank God my joining. Finally, we were finally able to get married within the first 3 weeks of my joining date. For me, it was a case of fantasy becoming a reality. Following the completion of our wedding, we vacationed in Australia. It was a very beneficial experience for both of us. Once we returned from the vacations, I started getting ready for my new adventure in the military. And the day of joining had finally arrived. I was in the training for a total of 6 months before finally making it back home. Everyone was very happy for me and made me feel welcome at the same time. However, I had the impression that something was off between my mother and Blake. It would appear that both of them had begun to dislike one another. When I asked my mother about it, neither she nor Blake had any information to share with me. In any case, I was under the impression that it might occasionally occur between the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law. In addition to this, the two of them shared the same residence. After some time had passed, they would be fine. I joined the duty back. It was important to me to have Blake come alone. However, due to a few restrictions, I was unable to do this immediately after joining the military. Consequently, I volunteer and then assigned to perform a special duty at the Pentagon. Once I dialed the number listed for the Holmes Landing line, the phone was answered by my mother, but I don't think she was aware that the call was coming in. I seem to recall hearing the voice of a man who was talking to her at that moment. I was having trouble hearing clearly. However, I had the impression that she was concealing something from me. When I questioned her father about it, I called her back and she said it was a technician who had come to fix the television, considering that she was my mother. There is no question that I would believe anything she said. I was unaware that she had also been lying to me about something. However, she will occasionally complain about Blake, stating that she's very careless and everything else of the sort. When I talked to Blake, she always complained about how complaining she is. Blake frequently inquires about the possibility of her shifting with me. I explained to her that it occurred a very involved process that would be possible only after a great deal of paperwork was completed. Once while on vacation, I returned unexpectedly and without informing anyone of my plans because I had a copy of the house master key. I then proceeded to open it and head inside my house. When I saw my mother with another man, I was taken aback. When I approached her, she yelled, "I am shocked." I inquired to her about the identity of that man and the reason why the two of you are so close. She appeared to be in a very embarrassed state. After seeing both of them sitting very close together, it caused me a great deal of annoyance when they suddenly got up and left. After that, my mother approached me and pleaded with me, "My child, please don't misunderstand me. I'll be able to shed light on everything. Thank you." I asked my mother, "Mom, are you kidding me at this point in your life? What are you doing?" She said, "It didn't appear to be as easy as you were thinking it would be because I'm going to share something with you. I require your undivided attention." I said, "Okay, Mom, tell me." She claimed that they had previously met in a restaurant. And after 20 years, I finally connected with someone who knows me better than I know myself. In a nutshell, following the passing of your father, I was in no position to marry someone else because I was obligated to care for you and your sister financially. After giving up my entire life for all of you, I decided that it was time for me to start living it again. I was so nervous about telling you about it. But now that I think about it, there is no reason for me to keep anything from you because you already have seen everything, and another individual took advantage of my anxiety. I asked his dad, then she uttered the name Blake. I said how she claimed that she had threatened me with blackmail in order to prevent me from informing you about her unusual behaviors. I asked her what kind of unusual activities she was talking about, and she said that Blake had an affair. She said that I had discovered her in bed with someone else. She mentioned that 3 months ago, I was resting in my own bedroom and Blake arrived at house in the late night with the guy because you are aware that I am a patient and that I take medication before going to sleep. As I was getting ready to go for a walk early in the morning, the door to Blake's room was slightly open. I could see a man laying in her bed. I burst into the room where she was and shouted at her. While that other man ran out of the house, I was going to make a call to tell you everything. All of a sudden she begins showing me pictures of me with the man you saw earlier today, and she should use the threat of sending all those pictures to the entire family as a means to blackmail me into not telling anyone else about the pictures. I became anxious and chose not to tell you about the matter. My dear son. I am so sorry. What could I do on that time? Please make sure an effort to grasp what I am saying. So I didn't say anything. I made a number of attempts to convey the information to you, but I didn't get a chance. I couldn't believe what she was saying. At first I couldn't believe it, but at the same time, I couldn't help but wonder why she would lie to me even though she came clean with her lie because she disclosed to me that she was having sexual relations with a black man. I became suspicious that man in question was the same man with the home. She had an affair before she got married. I wanted to know more about the things she did. My mother stated that Blake spent a significant number of nights away from the house, and today marked the third day in a row that she has not returned home. I told my mother how much a whore she was and that she must have talked to me at least twice or 3 times a day just to win my complete trust. But today I found out what it was that she had been up to throughout the eternity of our marriage. She was the recipient of my unrestricted free hand. I called her parents while pretending to be normal and just calling to find out how about her. Is she there? However, while I was on the phone with them, I realized that she was not there and she was not with her boyfriend. Even though it was early in the morning, I called her out of the blue and inquired as to where she was at the present moment. I did not mention to her that I was at home. I called her and inquired about her health before trying to establish her location during our conversation. She was so astute that she said she was at home right at the moment. I did not know how to track her down. So I decided to play a game with her. Instead, the objective was to catch her cheating on me and then tell her parents about it. I am now settled in my room in a motel near my house. And I told my mother to call her in the middle of the night and tell her to hurry back home because her parents had just arrived. It was merely an experiment. But she repeated the same thing in night, after which she returned home because of her parents. She returned during the night. She returned to her house in the shambles. My mother did a trauma after that. After she had returned home, she did not contact the guy anymore. The inappropriate behavior that Blake displayed towards my mother is the reason why she lied about her parents coming home. I had to stay in a hotel for 2 days to figure out where she was going. And during that time, my mother filled me in on everything she knew about Blake. The following day, she went to a location where I followed her, but she ended up meeting that guy in a restaurant and then came back. I waited around for her to reconnect with that guy, but she was completely unaware that I was in that area. On the 3rd night, my mother let me know that she would be leaving at 10 o'clock at night. I had no doubt that she would end up talking to that guy. I don't waste any time and check out of the hotel, and I followed her from the hotel where I was staying, that was actually on the way to my house and was only about 200 or 300 meters away. That allowed me to follow her from that vantage point. I campaigned her until she arrived at the house. She went inside the house after the other man opened the door for her. She hugged him and got in. I got the impression that obviously he would be fucking her since she was with him. I phoned her parents and asked him to meet me where I was. I passed on the address and the location information. I had nothing more to do but wait for them to arrive. They arrived and together we broke into the house and discovered something that not only surprised me but also exceeded my expectations. She was having threesome with 2 black men at the same time. The same caused his father a great deal of emotional distress. It was very upsetting for her to see that what I saw there not only shook me to my core, despite the fact that I had just assumed that she was having an affair with one man. She was taken aback to see me there because according to her, I could have been performing my duty at the time. Whatever the case may be, make me realize that sometimes we are in such a rush that we end up choosing the wrong person to spend the rest of our lives with. Even my mother was subjected to her blackmailing. What kind of a young lady she was, even though she made mistakes herself. My mother was in the right on this issue.